You're watching Man of Metropolis. Today's guest is Kevin Quinn.
I'm Seth Travis. I'm a creative director here in New York City and also founder of Man of Metropolis and Metropolis Report.
Avery, go ahead.
Can you just wait like 2 seconds? I have something for you.
Oh, yeah, sure.
But just 2 seconds, okay? Sorry.
Come on. Just tell her the truth.
I wanted you to have this photo. You don't have to keep it if it's weird. I don't know, I took a picture.
Avery,
Yeah?
Hey everybody, I'm Seth Travis. I'm here with Kevin Quinn, star of the new Netflix show, A Week Away. He's also got a pretty fun TikTok and an album coming up soon. So we're gonna talk all things Netflix, all things music, and we're gonna throw a couple of rapid fire questions at him to get started. Kevin, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it, Seth.
Awesome. Well, so we know you kind of got started pretty early in entertainment as an actor. And I always kind of like to start with some icebreakers. So kind of doing word association with Xander, Zach, and then Nate.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Xander, happy-go-lucky. That guy is almost too happy at times. So I would just say happy or happy-go-lucky. Zach, kind. He seems like a very genteel, chivalrous kind of guy, I guess. Those are the best words I can describe him. And then Nate, that was a long time ago. Killer. Yep, he was a murderer. Carried a shotgun around. So that's how I would describe him.
I mean, so for a young career, you've kind of played the gamut of characters. Also, we know that your background is not just in acting, but music is a huge part of your budding career. And I'd love to kind of get a sense of like what singers and musicians growing up kind of impacted you or inspired you in your own craft.
Yeah, I think for me, anything by the Beatles. I think Paul McCartney and John Lennon's songwriting partnership really is one of the most successful in history. And I've just always admired the way they collaborate with each other and the music they get and would always get. Another personal favorite of mine, John Mayer. Grew up listening to Continuum, Room for Squares. If not even more than the Beatles, like he might have been my biggest influence. Huge John.
I love John Mayer. Actually, the last concert I saw in real life was John Mayer's concert at Madison Square Garden 2 summers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was super. And also, since you're on TikTok, he just hit 1 million followers on TikTok yesterday or the day before.
I just started following him not too long ago.
Yeah, he's kind of promoting his upcoming album. Next question, kind of pivoting back to acting. On the actor side, you obviously started really young. How have your influences on the acting side sort of shifted and changed as you've kind of gone from sort of Disney to young adult, and now you've started your own show with Netflix now, so you have a lot of experience under your belt.
Yeah, it's interesting. As a kid, like I would say my biggest influences were leading men, Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, that kind of caliber. And maybe it was just because, they were huge movie stars at the time that I was growing up in the early 2000s. But I was a big fan of Titanic. I would watch, Romeo and Juliet, Baz Luhrmann stuff. But as I've gotten older, I've become very interested in niche actors. For instance, Emile Hirsch. I like a lot of the horror stuff he does. And I probably wouldn't have been a fan of him growing up, considering how niche he is.
Yeah.
Riz Ahmed, who was just nominated for an Oscar for Sound of Metal. I watched Sound of Metal. I watched The Night Of. Huge fan of Riz Ahmed. So I think as I get older, I'm finding certain actors that I really enjoy watching them for a specific niche or a specific character. And I wasn't doing that at a younger age.
Awesome, for sure. So, speaking of that and sort of streaming and YouTube, and we kind of mentioned TikTok a couple of times, but it's all of these things, especially during the last year, has really impacted pop culture, from seeing music on the Billboard charts be impacted by TikTok and vice versa, to more people streaming, more YouTube channels, and then seeing movies converting from premiering in movie theaters to premiering in your living room on your couch. Did you discover any new obsessions across these platforms over the last year because of the pandemic?
I will say that I joined TikTok right before the pandemic started. I still feel like I'm weirdly too old for the platform. I can't quite figure it out. And while a lot of kids on the platform or younger folks are posting, 10-second clips of them doing selfies or whatever, I'm trying to put out real content that showcases me as the actor that they may have seen growing up. So a lot of like film clips. I know I post stuff from a week away. There was a time when I was posting, reruns of Disney episodes that I had done, just giving the kids something to watch that is a little bit more professional looking, because I don't think there's enough of that content quite yet.
Yeah, TikTok is definitely kind of an emerging platform still, and it's a little bit of the wild, wild west right now. On the YouTube side and the streaming side, sort of your world, whether it's Netflix or HBO Max or Disney Plus, talk to us a little bit about maybe some of the guilty pleasures or obsessions, or maybe discovering something that's been around for a while that you just happened to discover because you had extra time.
So there are a few on Netflix that I really enjoyed. The OA, Britt Marling's OA, was something that I felt was so underrated. And it was so out there, so sci-fi. I even wrote a pilot after seeing it that I tried to model some of those sci-fi elements. I had a ton of downtime during the pandemic, like everyone else. So I was trying to write stuff, and I wanted to create like a musical version of the OA, but instead of musical theater kind of songs, it was more, I guess, ambient or classical music. So I love the OA. I watch a lot of true crime. That has been a guilty pleasure of mine as I get older. I don't know why. And there was actually a really good true crime I saw called The Vanishing at Cecile Hotel that I thought was going to be a homicide story, but it ended up being a really eye-opening and important story on the importance of mental health. It took a turn, like the last episode, to something I did not expect at all. And I feel like that discussion on mental health was opened up for me. I had talked to some other people about seeing The Vanishing at Cecile Hotel, but I really thought it brought some nice awareness to some commonly misconceived ideas regarding mental health.
Awesome. And good segue to talk about your project that you starred in A Week Away on Netflix, which I believe premiered in February this year. But talk to us a little bit about, how you got, I don't want to say roped into it, but maybe how you got cast or how you auditioned, what that process was like, and then understanding a little bit more behind sort of the story and the message behind A Week Away.
Yeah, so the whole audition process for A Week Away was a bit irregular for me. I had originally auditioned for the role of Sean, who is kind of the antagonist of the movie, if anyone's seen it, and I was offered the part. So I did my due diligence. I said, hey, is there a script I can read? We got it from production. I took a read, and I did that actor thing where I was reading another character's lines and imagining myself playing those lines and that character. And we called casting. We were like, look, I could play Sean, but I think the better character for me is Will. And they said, no, we want more of a Charlie Sheen type, dark hair, your eyes are too light. And I said, look, just give me a chance to audition for this thing. And if I don't get it, I don't get it. So I had a couple callbacks, and eventually I got the role. And I think part of the reason why I had such a great audition and was able to secure that role was because I was dealing with a bit of an existential crisis myself. I was dealing with a lot of feelings of frustration, life, just questions about existence, things that someone usually doesn't think of as a kid or a teenager, but starts thinking about as they get into their early 20s. And that really was the place I was in. I was in this mentality, like, what is the purpose for my existence here? And that definitely reintroduced me to God and the idea of faith. So I brought that into the audition room, and I think it actually helped me get the role.
That's awesome. What a great story to be able to kind of pull from your own experiences to, I guess, fight for maybe a different role that happens to be the star of the show versus sort of an ensemble cast member. Which, speaking of, can you tell our viewers a little bit more about, without spoiling it completely, but, if you watch a trailer, you get a sense of the show, but which is also a bit of a musical. Can you tell our viewers a little bit more about the character that you did end up getting cast as, and sort of this, the story or the message behind the film?
Yeah. So I play Will Hawkins, and he is the protagonist, and we follow him on this journey from basically being at a crossroads of having to choose between juvenile detention or a Christian summer camp. And he obviously chooses the Christian summer camp. And along the way, he meets a special girl, he meets a new best friend, and he finally feels like he has a community for the first time. Now, there isn't a little twist and a little angle here where he doesn't like who he is, and he is worried about the other campers finding him out. And without giving too much away, basically, we just see these certain themes of love and acceptance and community. And the movie does take quite a surprising turn somewhere about the halfway point. It takes more of a dramatic turn, goes from kind of like a, light comedy family movie to a bit more of a dramatic and emotionally intense movie. So even as an actor, getting to do that again, last time I did that was years ago in Chicago theater, because I had taken a break to do some half-hour multi-cam comedy. But it was just so refreshing to be able to do that kind of material again.
That's awesome. And you got to give us a little bit of insight to what it was like to, we know you have a musical background, as we mentioned at the beginning of the interview. I think there's some footage out there of you also auditioning for American Idol. But beyond the singing side, there was some dancing included in your character with Will and A Week Away. Can you talk to us a little bit about, learning the choreography, and was it hard? Was it easy?
It's harder than people think it is, especially for us, the 5 main cast members. It's just, we look better in the movie than we actually are, like how good of dancers we are. And I think a lot of that is to thank, we have the skeleton crew to thank. And for those who don't know, the skeleton crew basically serves as the middleman between the choreographer and the cast members. So there are 5 main cast members, and there are 5 skeleton crew dancers out of maybe 60 or 70 dancers, and they are assigned to each of us specifically, and they talk to the choreographer, they dumb down the choreography for us, they teach it to us one-on-one. It's kind of like having your own private dance tutor on set. And first of all, our choreographer Melina made it easy enough for us to do, but she did a really good job communicating with the skeleton crew dancers, who in turn did a really good job communicating with us. And I think that's what really helped our performance, is that we had them to lean on.
So they're kind of like your stunt double a little bit.
Exactly. They're like your dance stunt double. That's the way I've described them to people before. Yeah.
That's awesome.
They look like us too, which is kind of funny.
Well, they look like you. Okay, so are they also kind of stand-ins for like getting shots and lighting and all of that?
For dance rehearsals where they need to mark the choreographer, that's right. Exactly what it is. So that when the director is watching back the rehearsal and getting the marks and the blocking, they are the ones doing the dance. So they kind of serve 2 purposes in that way.
Yeah, very cool. Well, I have to ask you, with the choreography and the dancing and being the star of this show, any more plans to add some dancing to your TikTok channel? I know you said you want to keep it a certain way. Yeah. The kids do love the dancing on TikTok, so I have to ask, especially since you've picked up some moves.
They really do. It's so funny. I posted my first dancing TikTok. I did a duet with Bailee to The Best Thing Ever Dance. And I don't know, I feel like I either got heavier or taller because of the pandemic, because before I was like so mobile and it was easy for me a little bit, just to move around. And now I just feel so heavy and lethargic. And I guess I'm just out of practice, but there will be more dance TikToks coming soon. I promise.
Awesome. Well, switching gears, let's talk about your EP, Edge of the World. I know that's been out for about a year now, and then you obviously, at least on Spotify and other streaming platforms, can get the music from your Netflix film. But talk to me a little bit about Edge of the World, and then walk us through sort of the transition of what you're working on right now.
Yeah, so I did Edge of the World independently. I did not have a label partner at that time. And I just wanted to get something out there, but I've also been very cautious in particular about what I put out there. And I had written maybe like 50 or 60 demos by that point that I released Edge of the World. And it was close enough to good, I guess, at the time.
It's 60 demos?
Yeah, like 60.
Zero. Wow.
Yeah. So there's 5 tracks obviously on that EP, and those were kind of the best 5 out of the 60 at the time. And I had just started songwriting like maybe 2 or 3 years before that, and I had just gotten my practice and kept writing before I released that EP. So it was like 3 years in the making. But it now looking back, I guess you can call it the evolution of the songwriter or the artist, but it's not quite representative of what I want to do or what is actually coming, and the stuff that I've written since then. So since that time, I've probably doubled the amount of demos. I've written 120 songs. And I was able to secure a label partner, the perfect partner. I'm working with Capitol Records. I had pitched them some of the very best of those demos, and we started working together after that. So now I have my own project. We're hoping to get a single out pretty soon here, probably within 2 to 3 months. And there will be likely an EP or an LP following up that release. And the stuff that I'm getting now, I mean, Capitol just took me up with some really, really stellar songwriters and producers that it just blows Edge of the World out of the water, and all of the stuff I've done before. People are going to love it.
That's amazing. Can you give me a sense of maybe how you would describe the sound, or maybe the vibe, the message at all?
Yeah, we had referenced Justin Bieber's Purpose because we thought it was a nice balance of talking about God and faith. You have that on his album, Purpose, the song Purpose, or Life is Worth Living, these kind of inspirational faith-based songs, but it's kind of disguised as a pop album. Okay. And, we wanted to do pop. I've wanted to do pop. I've always been a pop artist at heart, and it is straight pop. So, even if you're not Christian, this music will be for you in the same way that A Week Away was for everyone. It's just very, very subtle faith aspects. But we were really lucky to get a lot of collaborators for this particular project. I even got one of Bieber's producers, Theron Veemster, otherwise known as Nephew, who was just so great, and I continue to work with. So he produced a couple songs on that album, Bieber's album. But this stuff is just going to be very inspirational. It's going to be clean, and it kind of has like an R&B vibe, but also a pop vibe, kind of Justin Timberlake. A lot of stuff coming at you, but that's the gist of it. Good.
I love it. I'm with you. I was in college when Justified came out, and it was a pretty pivotal album in my early 20s, and I still in fact, I think I've even kind of done the deep dive on YouTube lately, and if you haven't seen it, there's a behind the scenes, it's a pretty grainy video of Justin and Pharrell doing Justified, like recording in the studio. So you might get a kick out of that. It's on YouTube somewhere. It's worth watching. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I was a huge fan of Man of the Woods. He did before that, and that kind of country Americana turn that he did, I thought was a really interesting turn. One of my favorite albums.
Nice. I have to ask this, and it wasn't really in my slate of questions, but I think it's worth, since you referenced pop and sort of a little bit of a faith, vibe or maybe message in some of your upcoming music, and also Justin Bieber, and being a young guy like you are that hasn't been totally thrown into, celebrity. What are some things that you're hoping to do as a person, as an artist, to kind of be true to yourself but also explore your sound and explore who you are as a person?
Yeah, I have a lot of career goals, especially on the music side. I would love to do my own tour, separate from A Week Away, which I feel confident I'll be able to do with Capitol Records and the huge fan base we've been getting in Brazil now because of the movie. So I would love to do a world tour. The other thing is I'd really like to stay true to my songwriting and where it's currently at. I don't want to lose myself in what the label wants me to do or expects me to do. And luckily Capitol's been so great about that and just letting me explore it for myself. Because I think that would be my biggest disappointment, is that I would feel limited. I'm scared to feel limited, you know, and luckily Capital hasn't done that. They've been super receptive and open to everything I've been exploring. And then I have goals on the film side too. I think I mentioned to you like 10 minutes ago that I was writing a pilot. I've been screenwriting a lot just in my downtime because during the pandemic, that was really all I could do. So I was like, this is a perfect time for me to explore screenwriting for the first time. I'm writing poetry. I actually just finished a chapbook because I think it goes hand in hand with songwriting. All songwriters are poets in that way. So I was like, why not poetry book? But I'm just really finding these different avenues for my career and different ways to expand, I guess, my little entertainment empire here. It's been very fulfilling to me.
That's awesome. It sounds like you're making the best of the situation and having fun doing it. A couple of fun questions for you before we go. Another curveball, but I think it's an easy one. What did you think about Taylor Swift's 2 records she recorded during the pandemic? And has that inspired you at all to kind of play with maybe some musicians local to you in Nashville or wherever you're based to kind of do some type of a pandemic inspired EP?
Yeah, so some of Taylor's earlier stuff, I will admit I had a bit trouble getting into, like Red or some of that stuff. But these last 2 albums, I think the reason why I really, really like them is because, you know, just like JT took a turn with Man of the Woods, I feel like she really did take a turn with the whole folklore thing. And especially her work with Bon Iver and yeah, I mean, what is that song? The Exile. Yeah. There's even an acoustic cover of that song that just came out, blew me away, like goosebumps, you know. And I'm a huge fan of Bon Iver, Justin Vernon, and also now a Taylor Swift fan, I guess. So to answer your question, I really, really enjoyed these 2 albums, probably more so than other ones in the past, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of figure I would know your answer because of, like you said, you're doing the screenplaying and you're doing the poetry and stuff. It just, you know, she sounds like someone who's kind of up for any challenge, and you do yourself as well. Okay, some last questions. These are kind of fun, you know, but next coming projects for you could be film, could be streaming projects, and I got to ask you, you know, between Marvel's MCU, not just in the theater, but streaming shows like Loki coming out in June. They're obviously extending the universe with the Falcon Winter Soldier, which is running right now. And then on the DC side of things, you have The Rock's Black Adam. Noah Centineo is one of the actors, as well as Aldous Hodge is coming on board as Hawkman. So I just have to ask you, on the DC side and the Marvel side, if you could be in any project for both of those universes, you know, what project would it be? And if you happen to be a comic book fan and you know some of the characters, give us a character.
So I will admit, I was almost actually in one of those Marvel projects before I even started with Disney Channel, and I had just moved out to LA. I was in talks, I guess, very unofficial talks about playing Spider-Man, which Tom Holland eventually ended up playing. And he was way better, I guess, way more right for the role than I was. But, you know, I do know how to do a backflip, back handspring. I have like a kind of gymnast side. I even do a backflip at the end of the blooper reel in A Week Away. And I felt that character fit really well on me, the Peter Parker character, when I auditioned for Sarah Finn. Yeah. It didn't go further, but I would have really liked to give it a shot. And I think I would be able to do like a Spider-Man kind of role in the Marvel universe, but let's leave that to Tom Holland because he's better at it.
Well, since you brought it up, because that's kind of major news, you know, really quick, let's like stick on that topic before we switch to DC. So your agent gets a call, you go in person, you do some lines, and then they say, show us your acrobatic style. Like, walk us through that audition.
Well, so I am acrobatic, but what I didn't do in the audition that I think I read somewhere that Tom Holland did himself is Tom Holland did show them his acrobatic side, and I just didn't think to do that in the room. But I was living in Chicago. I had just finished, some roles on Chicago PD, Shameless, local Chicago stage productions, and I hadn't moved out to LA yet, but I was visiting, staying in Airbnbs every couple months. And one of my trips, Sarah Finn had called my manager and my agent to see if I wanted to read for Spider-Man because she had, I guess, seen a few of my tapes. So I went in there, I did the audition, and I guess I did pretty well because she did an avail check and brought me in for a callback. I believe I signed an NDA, so hopefully this isn't violating the NDA or there's some kind of expiration or term on that NDA. But yeah,
I mean, he's like 5 films into Spider-Man. I think you're okay.
Yeah, exactly. I think I'm good. Yeah, this isn't news at this point, I guess. It's been like 6 or 7 years, but yeah, very close to playing that role.
Yeah, I mean, that's exciting, and I can totally see it, at least in the look. But obviously, I think now that you've built out your acting chops, hopefully you have some more opportunities on the MCU side. So let's talk DC Comics. Any interest in the DC universe? Are there any roles, characters you're interested in?
Yes. I know that it got mixed reviews, but I really liked Suicide Squad DC. I thought it was a good movie. Margot Robbie was great as Harley Quinn. Who else? Jared Leto. I was going to say Jared Leto. So I've been told before that I kind of look like him. It's something different every day, Zac Efron or Tom Cruise or whatever. But I have been told Jared Leto before, and I was like, well, he did a really good job with Joker, not the other Joker, but the specifically DC Joker.
Mm-hmm.
I would really like to play like a little brother, like the evil little brother or something, if you ever had one. I don't know, but just something to
bad boy vibes.
Yeah, and even like Heath Ledger, I love The Dark Knight, and rest in peace. What a talented guy. But Jared Leto is also an underrated Joker in that way, and I think he deserves credit for the stuff he was doing in Suicide Squad. I really enjoyed it.
Have you seen Snyder Cut?
I haven't, no.
Oh, if you like Jared Leto and you like Joker, your mind is going to explode when you see that scene. It's I don't want to say it like overshadows the movie because the movie's 4 hours, and that was like the only additional photography that they shot for the movie. But it's that good that I think Zack Snyder is a genius for doing what he did with Jared Leto. So like, if you don't have HBO Max, download it, like watch it.
I got it. All right, I'm gonna have to watch that.
Yeah, and they released if you go online, they released a version that's not in the movie, that's in black and white. It's part of a fundraiser that Jared Leto and 30 Seconds to Mars is doing, called "We Live in a Society." It's a line that he did, but they didn't use it in the movie. Anyway, yeah, you'll eat all that up if you're into Jared.
Yeah, I love it. I really enjoyed him in Requiem for a Dream as well. Not a superhero movie, but just a really dark. I think that was Darren Aronofsky, I believe, but that movie just hit me hard. Just the characters and their struggle with addiction and drugs and that turmoil. I'm not surprised that Jared Leto eventually played the Joker, considering what he was doing before that.
Yeah. So awesome. Well, this has been awesome. This has been a great conversation. And, I love you sharing some of these other things you're up to, like screenplay writing and poetry. And it sounds like while you're getting your album mixed out in LA. So what are your plans now for the summer? Anything exciting? Doing any backpacking trips or any more like songwriting?
I wish I was doing a outward bound backpacking trip, doing the Swiss Alps or something. No, I mean, for the summer, I'm definitely going to be working. It's going to be very busy for me. One thing I am looking forward to is taking a little personal break to go to Wisconsin. I have family friends up there. My family used to have a cottage up there. We would frequent it because it was 4 hours from Chicago, where I grew up.
Yeah.
And we eventually sold it because, we moved to LA and our roots are here now. but every summer I try to get back to Wisconsin and enjoy Door County. It's on the northeast side of Wisconsin, a little peninsula, and just so beautiful. So I feel like that is my Zen zone, and really just mentally refreshing for me to get out there and step away from LA. So I'm looking forward to that.
That's awesome. Kevin Quinn, thanks so much for joining us today on Man of Metropolis. We wish you the best with your upcoming album. Congratulations on your Netflix movie. And obviously, we hope to talk to you soon again.
Thank you so much, Seth. Can't wait to talk to you next time. Yeah, this was fun. Thank you so much.
I'm Seth Travis. I'm a creative director here in New York City and also founder of Man of Metropolis and Metropolis Report.
I'd like to thank today's guest, Kevin Quinn, for joining us on Man of Metropolis. Thanks for watching.